show itself is racist.
Hannah White of Bitch Media argues that Doug was racist. She points out that the creators wanted to make characters of all different colors so the audience could decide for themselves what ethnicities were represented, or just ignore the construct altogether. However, the main character, his family, and the love interest of the main character are all clearly Caucasian. While the show portrays itself as colorblind, it's actually clearly stating that white is normal.
Doug grows up to become Ted Mosby.
Though all the TV makes a short argument, the possibility that Doug grows up to become Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother, it's a fun one. Doug gives into the lovelorn, sweater-vested dweeby side of himself and becomes the lovelorn, sweater-vested dweeby Ted Mosby. No, there is no real evidence that this is the case, but they also make the argument that he becomes JD from Scrubs, perhaps lending a little more credence to that particular theory. Either way, they continue. Speaking of either outcome, Doug's looking at an absurd head of hair and a solid set of "come on, you guys" monologues. So, good on you, Doug. Funny way to grow up hair.
Doug and his sister are drug addicts.
A creepypasta fan theory makes the case that Doug was molested by Mr. Dink, but goes even further, saying that, as a result, Doug and his sister became drug addicts. The theory notes that Judy is borderline violent about keeping Doug out of her room. However, Doug indeed sneaks into her room on numerous occasions, and there's never a good explanation for it. The theory offers one, saying that Doug was trying to get to her stash of LSD, explaining all of his daydreams/hallucinations, and Judy's anger is due to her fierce protection of both her secret and her supply.
Doug ruined the world by being the first emo kid.
Retro Junk User System opens his argument saying, "I reached a horrifying conclusion today. Doug Funnie made being a loser cool." This angry theory goes on. Doug was the original emo kid. He sat in the corner of the park and wailed on his banjo, singing love songs about Patti mayonnaise. What do little kids do? Idolize cartoon characters. Emo and the subsequent emo kids are all Doug's fault. Doug was emo, keeping a journal, getting his ass kicked by bullies, and wearing a sweater vest. Systems theory continues, but quickly devolves into a rant about how Doug made being a loser completely acceptable. He also hates Quail-themed for being a lame superhero.
Doug was molested by Mr. Dink.
Movie pilot breaks down this creepypasta fan theory by an unnamed author who views Doug through a dark lens. In the very first episode of Doug, audiences are introduced to Mr. Dink, Doug's eccentric neighbor who, upon meeting Doug, immediately tries to get him to come into his house to watch a movie. Later in the episode, Dink is seen watching Doug form the bushes with a camera. Mr. Dink also lures Doug into his high-tech shed on numerous occasions. Most disturbingly, when Doug goes to scout camp, Mr. Dink is the scout leader, and at one point, Doug and Skeeter find Mr. Dink naked in a tree. The result of all this is mental instability on the part of Doug, manifesting as either schizophrenia or drug addiction.
Roger Klotz has Rickets.
The Doug Funnie is Crazy Tumblr takes a break from their ongoing argument that Doug is insane to point out Roger Klotz's disease, Rickets. While others have made the argument A collection of images are presented on this Tumblr depicting Roger with bowed legs, a symptom of rickets. Rickets is a vitamin D deficiency that results in a softening of bones, a possible explanation for why Roger is bullied.
Doug is insane.
There are a number of theories claiming Doug is insane, and subsequently, there are a number of mental health disorders with which he's diagnosed. Some believe he's schizophrenic, others more generally just call him crazy. Regardless, theories abound that Doug is not sane. The support for him being schizophrenic cites the time he nearly rode his bike into traffic while having one of his fantasies. His daydreams are so vivid and extreme that he can't separate reality from fantasy, and it nearly kills him on more than one occasion. That's not a daydream at that point. It's a medical diagnosis.
Roger has the hots for Doug.
A post on Dink explores Roger Klotz's personality to try and uncover why he's such a bully. In this case, the conclusion is reached that Roger is gay and is trying to repress his feelings for Doug, which is why he lashes out. Also, the vice principal is named Mr. Bone, and the principal is named Mr. But Savage pronounced but Savage. These aren't subtle messages coming from these writers. Roger craves the presence of these two in his life, as they are the only two who understand who he truly is. Getting in trouble is a terrific beard for Roger's frequent visit to these cleverly named administrators. Roger's tough guy facade is just a transparent cover to run from his true self.
Patti is a closeted lesbian.
This wisely anonymous theory on Wilton Drive makes the argument that Patti Mayonnaise is secretly a lesbian. She really likes sports seriously. She spent half of the episode in a basketball jersey. Sometimes she spoke in a deep voice to be funny, but we deduce that it might have been her actual voice that she hides with her southern accent. She never showed any interest in Doug other than friendship, and let's be honest, Doug was a total babe. She never seemed to do well in girly situations. Exhibit A, cooking. This theory, however, only identifies Patti as a tomboy and notes that she doesn't conform to gender stereotypes. That is far cry from proving she's a lesbian.
JD from Scrubs is a grown-up dove.
Cartoon Justice wants to bridge the gap between your childhood and adulthood. This Redditor argues that the protagonist of Scrubs, JD, is Doug as an adult, citing multiple similarities to support the argument. JD and Doug both share extreme daydreaming. None of their friends or family intercede to stop this. Both have extreme fears of failure and keep a diary. They share a love of blondes, who are over-competitive. They both continually self-sabotage their love life. Both have a best friend of color. So Doug Yancey Funnie, traumatized by his parents' divorce, gives up on his dreams of music and decides to go to medical school. His daydreaming and awkwardness follow him into adulthood. After a falling out with Skeeter, he meets his new best friend in med school.
People of color are the elite ruling class in the show.
Doug and Patti are the two main flesh-colored people in the show, and Redditor Pricel notes that they are presented as having lower/working class lifestyle. Conversely, the purplish Dink has grandiose political aspirations and spends lavishly, while Skeeter, who is either blue or green depending on your eyes/TV, is a super genius. The heart of the theory is that white people are depicted as mundane or below average, while colored people are notably superior.
The events of the show are a manifestation of Doug's imagined narrative.
Similar in practice to the theory that Doug is crazy, one theory argues that the events in Doug are part of the boy's narrative, which he writes in his journal. Essentially, the theory goes that Doug writes his own story. This explains why everyone is differently colored, as real ethnic differences are mundane to a child. His alter ego as a superhero, Quail-themed, is further evidence that a child is writing the story. It's a much nicer theory than those claiming Doug is either insane or addicted to drugs.
Roger was abused as a child.
J. Swift X from Retro Junk has a simple, armchair psychologist explanation for why Roger Klotz is a bully. He was abused as a child. By and large, just about all aggressive bullies are indeed the victims of aggressive bullying themselves, which is almost always via the hands of a family member or close acquaintance. As a means of masking the inferiority of not having a father figure, Roger attempts to form a synthetic family consisting of all of the schoolhouse ruffians, an act which makes him his OWM paternal figure, in a way. So it's not simply an explanation for why Roger bullies people.
The Dinks lost a son around Doug's age.
Redditor thatthere offers a more innocent but heartbreaking explanation for why Mr. Dink is the way he is, seemingly desperate to force a friendship with Doug. The theory has two possibilities but essentially comes down to the same result. Either the Dinks had a son born around the same time as Doug whom they lost as a baby, or they had a son who died around Doug's age before Doug moved into the neighborhood. Dink goes a long way to build a relationship with Doug, almost as if he's driven by a pathological need to fill the void of his lost son. It's also noted that Mrs. Dink has a motherly effect, perhaps because she was once a mother.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the support and likes and comments down below, and also thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to see you in the next video. Then take care, bye.